Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad.
Hi, I'm Brenna, and this is the Mama's Gone Mad podcast.
Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad.
So today I'm going to be talking a bit about my marriage and parenting and how they kind of entwine and how they inflict on each other. I have realised that the majority of you seem to enjoy the more personal episodes more than anything else. But I still do want to do a Shit My Kids Say episode, so if your children have any weird ways of saying things, such as I've used this before, Lily and James for years have called animals aminals, or if they've just said anything really funny that's, stayed in your mind or that you've posted on Facebook or whatever, I would love to hear it, and I'd love to mention them on the podcast if you would be happy for me to. But today is another slightly more personal episode from me because, as I say, it seems to be the kind of things that you want to hear, and I'm all for making everybody happy. So, as some of you know, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, me and Stuart have been married for 9 years. Next February we'll be 10 years married. We got married when I was 18 and pregnant with Lily. We had only known each other for 7 months when we actually tied the knot. I was 4 months pregnant at the time. And I look back and it kind of makes me gulp a little bit. Obviously, I now have 3 children, and if any of them came home after, I think we were seeing each other for about 6 weeks. Well, we'd met each other about 6 weeks before we got engaged. Stuart actually proposed to me twice. I think the first time was maybe about 2 or 3 weeks after we met. And if my children came home and said that they were engaged after 6 weeks and married to someone after 7 months, 4 months pregnant on the wedding day, I would probably panic a little bit. Obviously, it's worked out well for us. He's my best friend, and he makes me laugh like nobody else ever has. And I think that because he's kind of my safe place, it was like it was a given for me that, I wanted to marry my best friend, and from the moment that we met, we just clicked. And I know that sounds really cliche, but we just got on and we just made each other laugh, and there was never any awkwardness. There never ever has been in the entire time that we've known each other. And on our wedding day, his best man, during his speech, mentioned the fact that Stuart from day dot was just head over heels. His best mate called it love at first sight, and so for us it's worked out. Part of the reason I actually think it's worked out so long for us personally is because we didn't know each other that well. So basically, each time you have a baby, you obviously go through matrescence. If you haven't listened to my previous episodes, feel free to go back. I do talk quite a bit about it in sort of the earlier episodes. But basically, matrescence it's like adolescence for mothers. So when you have a child, when you give birth, your body, your mind, even right down to your political views, everything can change. Your humour, how you cope with things, your views on the world, it can all change. It's like you are rebirthed yourself. It's a very, very tricky one because it's not really taught to new mothers. So you're kind of handed this baby and you're not really warned that you'll never be the same again yourself. So we all kind of chase our previous selves, our pre-baby selves, and they don't exist anymore. It's just not how it works. You are no longer that person. And basically, because me and Stuart were still getting to know each other when I had Lily, I don't think either of us massively noticed the matrescence happen, because I was so caught up with being a mum and being young, and I was 19 when I gave birth to her, we'd been married for, trying to do the maths, 5 months, and it was all still a bit of a new beginning for us. So because it was all such a whirlwind, I didn't really notice myself change. And I think that, and with my body, like I did gain weight and my boobs changed as they do, everything changed a bit. But Stuart has always had this way of making me feel beautiful no matter what. I gained a lot of weight years ago after I had James. Obviously there was a lot of trauma there. And I gained, how much did I gain? I think it was like just over 5 stone. It might have been about 6 stone because I didn't start weighing myself at first. I think I gained about 6 stone, and I completely changed. And Stu, it was like he didn't even notice. I never once felt like I was, like he wasn't looking at me the same way he always had. I've always felt very beautiful and loved in his presence. So I didn't notice my body change because of that, I don't think. And even if I did, it just didn't matter to me. And I think he didn't notice that I'd changed after Lily because he was still getting to know me himself. He didn't really know me yet to like the same sort of degree that most husbands and wives would know each other, or partners would know each other before having a baby. So for us, it kind of worked out well that way. And then obviously with James, there was so much trauma there. Again, we were so busy. We didn't sort of notice it until later on when I was then diagnosed with postnatal depression. James was nearly a year old when I was diagnosed, and I had dealt with postnatal depression, and I also believe I had postnatal anxiety for pretty much his entire life up to that point, and I had been doing it without understanding why I was terrified of people touching him, but I also felt like I wasn't his mum, so there was a lot going on. I'll talk more about that another time. It's a bit of a touchy subject, that one, but I do think that we were so caught up in this whirlwind that we kind of grew together. Me and Stu just carried on getting to know each other, and it was like nothing had changed, even though we'd had kids. And then when we had Alessia, it all did change. Obviously, by that point, we had been married for, trying to think, how old was Lils? It would have been 7 years. And I gave birth to Alessia and changed, as you do. And Alessia was very clingy, and she wouldn't go to Stuart. I was always on my feet with her. I was trying desperately to focus on not losing too much weight and not becoming weak because I was breastfeeding, and I was doing like 35,000 to 40,000 steps a day, every single day, on basically no sleep. And I still look back and wonder how I actually survived the first sort of 6 months of her life. I think I was on a constant dose of adrenaline or something. So I think Alessia's first year of life was the hardest year on our marriage to date, and probably, hopefully, the hardest year we'll ever have. It was not an easy ride. And then, to be totally honest, even 2023 was just a bad year for us. It was just, there was so much going on, and we came the closest we ever have to splitting up. And the thing is, when you're married, that is not something that you want to talk to people about, because you never want your friends to then view your marriage as weak or view your partner differently. I think for some reason there's this like shame around finding things difficult, but we had like a really difficult couple of years, and we were very, very, very close to ending our marriage, and it was really hard. And I think the thing was, we both needed a lot more from each other than either of us could give, because we had to give everything we had at that time to the children, naturally. And we totally lost ourselves to it. We stopped really bothering what we looked like. we stopped making little efforts for each other, which I'll go into in a minute. We didn't take the time to sit down and ask how each other's day had been, or to try and do something together that we both enjoyed, because, well, we couldn't for a lot of it, because I went to bed with Alessia, I got up with Alessia. She was never not on me, and I think that was a big strain on our marriage. I mean, obviously you find snippets of time, you find 2 minutes here and there, but it was never to talk or anything. We never found the time to sit and do Lego or watch a film or chat or get a takeaway together or any of those things. And it was really, 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 really difficult on our marriage, and neither of us realised it was until kind of breaking point, when we both looked at each other and we realised that we couldn't carry on the way we were going. So I think that was the moment when I realised that being married to someone is not, I mean, it's obviously not simple. People tell you marriage is hard. It really, really is. But it's also a choice. It is a choice that you make every single day when you wake up, to love somebody and to accept their mistakes and to forgive the things that they've done wrong. And it is a choice to face the fact that they are not perfect, just as you are not perfect. And it is so difficult to do that, because you are committing your entire life to somebody. Obviously, that's how I see it. No one gets married to get divorced, do they? It happens, and it can happen to the best of people. The reason I actually think that not knowing each other before having Lily benefited us is that I have seen amazingly strong marriages break down after children, and it is horrible to see. It's heartbreaking, but it happens every day. You know, people every single day wake up and realise that they've distanced themselves, or that they've changed, or that they want new things, and it is so tricky to keep on top of that and to keep an eye on that. And obviously I'm not an expert, but I can only give my sort of point of view, my experience of it. And having been to a very, very, very close breaking point, at a point in our lives when we shouldn't have been in our heads, because we had moved into our dream house, we had completed our family, we had booked holidays, we were earning more money than we had ever had. We had finally got financial security, which was such a big thing. When you think we'd got through postnatal depression and postnatal anxiety, we had got through debt, we had got through so many health struggles with me, and the thing that almost broke us was actually our dreams coming true. It was such a weird reality to try and face that, but we kind of had to face the fact that we could live in this beautiful house and we could drive the nice car and we could go on the holidays in the sun, but unless we prioritised each other a bit more, none of that was ever going to matter. And that was kind of when we both agreed to start making the effort. So it was kind of around the time Stu stopped drinking, and from then he decided that he was going to try and dress a bit nicer, try and make an effort with his hair and his beard, trim his beard and things like that, in such little things. And it was when I decided I was going to, and I'm not saying that it's for each other fully, he does those things for him too and they make him feel better, which naturally, they inflict on how our marriage is. And so I started getting my legs waxed and doing my fake tan, and not being anything like I had been in the past. Still dress comfy, but I would maybe try and pick slightly nicer clothes to dress in. I do basic things like I'll clean my trainers a bit more often so I'm not walking around in really muddy trainers. And it's little things like that improve my mental health or improve his mental health that then improves our mental health together. I started exercising more. He started prioritising going to the allotment because he knows it does him good. You know, we both started doing little things, little changes to improve our own moods, which would then, you know, come round full circle and improve our moods together. Stu has been making me a coffee in the morning before he goes to work or on weekends. I don't expect it every morning at all, but he does it and it's so lush. He makes me a cup of tea at night. He recently made me breakfast. He puts so much effort into little things, and he started doing such basic little things that make such a difference to me and my life that might not sound like anything, but when I've cooked tea, he'll then clear the table and he'll fill the dishwasher. I know that sounds like such a basic thing, but we did get in this habit of just, you know, he was going to work, he had an awful lot on at work, and then he was coming home exhausted, and, you know, of a weekend we'd open a beer or open a wine, and it was like, oh, well, that's our day at night, it's surrounded by alcohol. But then we were so tired from, you know, I say surrounded by alcohol, he'd have like 3 beers and I'd have half a bottle of wine, or we'd share a bottle of wine. We weren't getting drunk, but like it became, we got stuck in a bit of a rut basically. And then when he quit drinking, I sort of struggled with that a little bit, but I had to kind of face the fact he was doing that for his own self-care, for our marriage, for all the reasons. Everything that he was doing it for was good. So I had to face all of that, but at the same time I was kind of like, but where's our date nights now? And now I look back, I'm like, they weren't date nights. We would just sit and open a bottle of wine and watch something. We weren't chatting, we weren't playing games, we weren't really making any effort together. Whereas now we try and make a bit more of an effort. And it's still not always simple because Alessia doesn't always go to bed. But our marriage now, 9 years in, is the strongest it has ever been. I think it's safe to say we are both the happiest we've ever been. Obviously, we can now understand that a lot of my troubles came down to ADHD and PMDD, both undiagnosed at the time. He's now much healthier and much happier in himself. We still order a takeaway once a week. We still eat what we want and our weights fluctuate. That is natural. But we both make the effort to say, oh, you look handsome today, or you look beautiful today. You know, it is all about little things. The big things are the little ones. So we can now really enjoy the life that we've built together and the fact that we have the things we want. You know, it's every Sunday night now for the past, 2 months, Stuart has come up to me and gave me a hug and said, I've really enjoyed this weekend. And the fact that he's able to do that every single weekend now, compared to, oh, we didn't get that done this weekend, or, oh, God, are you going to be all right this week because we haven't done this, is such a blessing. So for us, parenting has inflicted our marriage in totally different ways. After Lily and James, it basically didn't, until obviously it did with James because of my mental health. But then I do think before we had Alessia, we would go through fluctuations of making a bit of an effort and then being stuck in a rut. And then after Alessia, we were so deep down in a rut, it was unreal. And now because we're out of it and we've seen how low it can get, and the fact that we got through that together, and the fact that we made a choice to stay married, and we made the choice to accept each other's imperfections, and we basically made the choice to just see it in for another anniversary and see what we could do, see where we could go. And we've come out of it. It's like stepping out. How do I describe it? Do you know what it's like? It's like coming in from a really horrible rainy day into a lovely warm house and having a bath run for you. It's such a wholesome, lovely feeling to have. And I do feel very blessed that we have a very light-hearted and very chilled out, nice marriage, and that our children are being raised in sort of a mentally very healthy home now. Because, to be honest, I think we were both desperately trying to hide how much we were struggling with things. And I look back, even on photos, I can see we were not hiding it well. We went through a tough few years and we've come out of it. But it's, I don't know, I think this is a very, very, very personal episode for me, isn't it? I think you do have to make the efforts for yourself and for each other, no matter how small they are. You don't have to do big, grand gestures, just little things that make you feel better, that make them feel better. You know, Stuart was saying that one of the things I do is, if I know he's had a bad day at work, I'll go down to the butcher's and I'll get him some of the slices of meat that he likes, or I'll nip to Co-op and get him some Wensleydale cheese because he loves that, and crackers, or I'll make a spag bol that night for tea because it's his favourite. It's such small things, isn't it? But they make a massive difference, and it has taken the worst of times to get us through to the best of times. So I feel very, very positive these days about where our life is and where our life's going. I'm sorry, I keep saying as well. The kids are in bed and I'm trying to be quiet. So I think it's important to make that choice to choose each other. But I do want to make something very clear. I personally believe that some people are made for each other and some aren't, and that sometimes we're made for people at a certain time in our lives. I don't like to believe in mistakes as such. I like to see them as lessons. And the way I see it, if you are no longer with your children's other parent, as long as you're happy in that decision, that is fine. For me, I know I'd never, ever, 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 ever would have been happy again, or as happy as I am these days, without Stu. So, and I think he felt the same. It was just a case of, right, we can either do this together or we don't. And it is quite, black and white that way. It's you do it or you don't do it. I don't want to upset anyone with this episode, so I'm trying to make it very clear that I'm not saying you're a failure if you've ended your marriage. Obviously you're not. I know a lot of people who, frankly, the best thing that ever happened to them was they left their partner, they left their children's dad or mum, and that's fine as long as it's the right thing for you. But even the best of marriages are hard, and when you throw in parenting, it's a bit of a mind fluff, isn't it? You've got to find time for things like intimacy and talking, and it's not always easy to find time in the day when there isn't any time in the day, or when, for us, obviously, with Alessia, I was with her 24/7, so there literally wasn't time for me to chat to Stuart or to think, do you know what, he might like spag bol tonight, I'll go make spag bol. It was a case of, no, I've done the shopping, I've got her with me, we're having what we've planned to have. But if you can talk to your partner, your husband, your wife, about the little things that make them happy, or maybe mention the little things that make you happy. Like, I've never, ever, ever liked foot rubs, but recently I had really sore feet. This is a bit of a random one, sorry. And I asked Stuart to rub my feet. I got some special stuff. I'll put a photo of it on the Instagram. It's a local lady in Cumbria. She makes the best like creams for your body. Amazing. And I asked him to put some of the foot rub on because my feet were just really aching, and he did, and I really enjoyed it. I've never ever ever liked foot rubs, but I really enjoyed it. So he started just grabbing my feet of an evening while I've been watching telly, like lifting them up and just giving me a foot rub with that balm. And he knows that if I don't want one, I'll just kick him and tell him to piss off. So he knows it's a perfectly safe thing to do. And it's such a nice little gesture. And sometimes if we're going out, like Stu will jump in the shower and whatever, and then I'll help him with his hair because he's still getting used to, self-care. So it's basic things like that, isn't it? Or even I rang the dentist for him recently to get him an appointment because I knew he was busy at work. And it might sound like the smallest thing in the world, but he was just delighted to get in the dentist because he's had a sore tooth. So don't overthink it. Don't worry too much about what money you're spending and stuff. You don't have to spend money to make an effort. Do little things. I personally think that doing things for someone is better than buying things for someone, or it is for me personally. Obviously, my love language isn't gifts, so that's why that's the case. But yeah, I don't quite know where to go with this now, because I think I've said pretty much everything I wanted to say in this episode. So yeah, I remember someone saying to me, you need to try just kissing when we were struggling in our marriage. You need to try just kissing. Don't let it lead anywhere. But, sorry, Mum, or Anne, Stu's mum, or Nana, if you're listening, maybe just don't listen for the next, 30 seconds. If you have young children in your house and they've gone to bed and all of them are down and you have 2 minutes, well, maybe not 2 minutes, that sounds terrible, and you've got 15 minutes and you have time to kiss, you tend to go further with that because naturally, if you're finding the time, you're finding the time. So I don't know about that one of just make sure that you try and kiss. I don't think I could just sit and kiss Stuart because my head would be thinking about, oh, well, I've got dishes to do, or I could be getting on with some admin, or, I could be watching Netflix. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just not the most... I'm not massively touchy-feely, so maybe that's all that is. It's an odd one, that, isn't it? But anyway, I don't know why I mentioned that. My brain is in tatters. I've had so many technical difficulties. I've lost my earphones. I'm pretty sure the baby's actually lost my earphones, not me. So I've borrowed Stu's, now we've got them to work with my phone. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there, I think, because I'm having a hot flush. My HRT needs to kick back in. I had a bit of a weird one with my Zoladex. I should really try and see a doctor, but joys of it. Life's busy. So, go easy on yourselves, but look after yourself before you try and look after anyone else. And I know that is the most hypocritical and cliche thing to say, but it's so true. You have to do a bit of self-care, and it doesn't matter what that looks like. Don't stress about it being Instagrammable. Self-care isn't always lying on a beach or reading a book. Sometimes it's binging out on Netflix while eating your favourite crisps. Just don't stress about it. Thank you as always for listening. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. It went quite personal, didn't it? But it's just the truth at the end of the day. When you don't have a lot of childcare and stuff, life gets hard, and I don't think anyone realised how hard it was getting because we didn't talk about it. So thank you for listening. Please could you subscribe to this podcast on all of your apps? It makes a massive difference. It literally takes 2 seconds. There'll be a little button that's follow or subscribe or like or something like that. If you could also rate the podcast, that would make a huge difference to me as well, please. 5 stars is obviously the best. If you think I deserve it, that would mean the world. It always does. And And if you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on the podcast Instagram. I often put pictures and things on there, little updates and stuff. And that is at mamasgonemad_podcast, or you can email me on mamasgonemad23@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, as always, and at the very end of this, I will play Lily's little advert and my little advert. I didn't want to interrupt the podcast with them, so they'll be at the very end. Thank you for listening to Mama's Gone Mad.
Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad. SingStars is all about having fun. When you want to, you can sit and join and dance. If you want to, there is snacks available, but also there is things like, so there's money that you have to pay with. But if you don't want to, you can take house from school, your snacks from your house, and it doesn't really matter where you get it from, as long as it is good. SingStars is great because you get to learn new songs. Like, we learned a new song called Mountain, and it was super duper fun to learn. We're still learning it right now, but no matter what, it's really, really fun. Every single, couple of days, we like to look and see, and sometimes we like to race to get into the hall. The hall is really, really nice because I love it. We get to learn songs with Miss Beth, and there's younger children that start before us that get to do sand stuff. They say it's really, really fun, but I don't know if the older children would like it. There's 3 sections. There is the juniors, which comes first, the second, which is the inters, and the third, which is the oldest, that is seniors. And there's 2 different level groups. If you're in year 5 or above to 18, then you're in the seniors. If you're year 3, year 4, or you're about to turn year 5, then you're in inters. But if you're anywhere younger, except from 4, then you go in the juniors. The 4s, the 1, 2, 3, 4s get to go before us, and it's really, really fun. Bye.
So I don't know if you've heard of Rudy before, but they are basically an online store that sell period swimwear and period underwear. I use them. I've used them for quite a while now, and I am now working with them, and I'm able to offer you 15% off any order. So if you want your 15% off, just use code MAMA15 at checkout. The link to the website will be in the bio.